Aaron and Shof, I'm so happy to have a chance to talk to you. And I know Amanda's here with us in spirit. So let's get this party going. Aaron, I'm going to start with you. And I'm going to comment that it's so clear that making Liana was a labor of love. Can you tell us a little bit about your background growing up in Swaziland?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much. This is delightful. I'm glad to be with you all here in internet land. Yeah, Liana is indeed emphasis on both labor and love. Yeah, I did have the pleasure of growing up in the Kingdom of Swaziland, which is now called Eswatini, but we can just call it Swaziland, I guess, for the sake of clarity. But yeah, it's a fantastic little kingdom in Southern Africa. It's a complicated, beautiful place. It does have a few dubious distinctions: the highest AIDS rate in the world, poverty, very high TB rates, you know, corruption. There's a lot of things that aren't really unique to Swaziland. But you know, my childhood there was a childhood of a pretty charmed, adventurous, middle-class white kid in the middle of a lot of different kinds of childhoods. You know, like the kids in the film, they had a very different childhood than mine. But yeah, we came to know the kids many years really before we even started filming. Through my parents' work, my parents actually started the organization that's kind of in the background of the film. But yeah, I think, you know, we were just friends for a long time. And I think that with the kids, that is, and I think that sort of mutual trust and respect really is what gave birth to the film and allowed the film to be what it is, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what I know that you knew the kids for quite a while, and you as you say, you were growing up with them. What was the moment at which you and Amanda really conceptualized the idea of making Liana? What prompted you to do that?
Well, I think, you know, the inspiration for the film is definitely born, you know, in our interaction with the kids and how just an inspiring bunch they are. I think, you know, I remember a conversation that we had with Zweli when he was 5, and he was already, you know, speaking poetry, and just they have such a complicated relationship, you know, with their own past. You know, they live in an orphanage. Obviously, things haven't gone according to plan, so to speak. And they're just really complicated, beautiful people. And I think we wanted to share some of our awe and love for them with the world. And, you know, the specific kind of form of Liana was born, I think, because we wanted to make a film that was different than so many other films that have been made, particularly by white people in Africa. Which is to say, a film that's not primarily about our voice, that really, you know, lets the kids share themselves with the world on their own terms, you know. And so, you know, after several years of research and scratching our heads, we developed this idea of a fictional character as being the sort of the vehicle for them to share themselves with you.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Shof, this one's for you. Aaron and Amanda say that they were drawn to working with you, not only because of your talent, but because of your heart and your passion. Can you tell us about what that was like, that first time they approached you about the film, and what it was that induced you to join them?
Thank you as well for having me tonight, Susan. It's a wonderful event that you put together here.
Thank you.
I can't say enough of how much this has shaped my life and how lucky I am to have been part of the team that, you know, made Liana. I, at the time, was seeking a sort of a channel to try and tell a positive African story. I mean, that's my entire goal as an artist, really. And when Aaron and Amanda approached me, it just seemed like the perfect storm of creativity and love and vision. You won't meet two more sensitive and and considerate and imaginative people. I mean, it's the perfect collaborators that you could meet, basically. So for me as an artist, it was just incredibly flattering the way they approached me in the first place. I mean, not many people that come to you as an artist to create work with them or for them actually fly out all the way to where you are to actually meet with you and wine and dine you, basically. So that was a very unique experience for me in the first place. But you know, sitting down with them, I just got the idea that we had a very shared vision, shared ideas, shared approach, and it was very clear from the start that we had very aligned sensibilities. So yeah, I am so lucky to have been you know, with them to make this. It's a perfect collaboration on all levels.
And I know that Aaron and Amanda would agree with you on that. And you've all given years of your life to making this film. Aaron, as you mentioned before, you know, growing up with the kids and knowing them since they were really very small, you knew their backstories, you knew the trauma they'd experienced, and not to be overly dramatic, but, you know, most have lost their parents to HIV. Some of them are HIV positive themselves. They suffered through abandonment and the deaths of their parents, and in some cases physical abuse as well. These were not easy childhoods. And there were probably a number of ways you could have told their stories, but you chose to tell them in a joyful and uplifting way. And of course, you know, coming from Shine, we just were drawn like a moth to a flame by that, because it is everything we hope to do in the films that we produce or help to produce. And you really celebrated and honored these children's lives. And you had a wonderful ally to help you with this. First show, you had several allies, but then also in the form of Gina Mlofe. With my apologies to Gina if she's listening, I just hope I didn't completely screw your last name up, but she is just such a vibrant and strong character and such a presence in the film. Can you tell us a little bit about yours and Amanda's process in working with Gina? I know we talked a little bit about this, and you said what you talked to her about the general story structure and then different elements in it. Is there more that you can help us understand about how you helped her to then know how to translate what you were looking for into classroom activities?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for all of that. I mean, I think that, well, like, you know, to your earlier point a little bit, you know, like so many of Shine's films, they are, you know, nuanced and respectful. And I think that that's just that kind of joy intermingled with sadness is just true to the nature of childhood experience, you know, for many kids. But yeah, working with Miss Mhlope, she is just kind of a tidal wave of story and creativity and love, and it's like you can't really be in her presence without getting swept away on this current. So, you know, we knew it was going to work out pretty much. You know, she works with kids all over the world. She does this kind of thing often, and she just did a really masterful job of, you know, creativity needs structure, you know, as most educators know. And so she did a really, I think, elegant job of creating a kind of a story spine that the kids filled in with all of the luscious, delicious details and kind of crazy, fun stuff that they come up with. So she, of course, is drawing on, you know, an extensive knowledge of oral storytelling tradition in the region, combined with, you know, some comparative mythology and all kinds of fun stuff. And so she kind of provided these narrative signposts, and we basically designed the classes around these narrative signposts. So she would say things like, you know, now we've developed this amazing, you know, complicated, interesting character, Liana, and now she has to go off on a big, crazy adventure. So what could happen that would propel her forward into this unknown world? And then the kids would basically just go nuts coming up with ideas in the classrooms, and then they would, you know, around a series of different creative exercises that Ms. Mhlope designed, and then they would each go off down rabbit holes describing each of those scenes, and then all those threads were eventually woven back together in the edit. But she did a really masterful job of kind of holding them all along very carefully, but keeping everyone going in the right direction.
It's really a beautiful balance of helping them to feel safe. And I mean, you can see the work she does in the classroom to create that sense of trust and safety. And she was protective and yet stimulating at the same time. That is really the sign of a wonderful teacher. So.
And she shared, and she was quite open with the children about her own past. She has also had quite a childhood herself, and I think that she experienced a lot of difficulty as a child as well, and so I think that really helped the kids feel like they could relate to this like force of nature that they were in the presence of, in a way that felt disarming and safe.
And that took courage on her part, and was really in the service of making the kids feel safer. Shof, you talked about the fact that when you first saw the film's rough cut, you were really struck in particular by the scenes that, and these scenes make viewers laugh every single time you see it. The kids playing outdoors, and they become human wheelbarrows, and one of the kids loses his shorts, and everybody gets a great laugh out of that. And I think we can all sort of relate to that. You said that it reminded you a lot of your own childhood growing up in Nigeria. Did these childhood experiences help you, further help you understand and relate to the kids as you were doing the animation?
I mean, it's like you said, kids all over the world have these commonalities, and when you see scenes like that in the film, I mean, you can't help but feel the joy and connectedness to the kids, right? I think we've all done things with both limited resources and our imagination, and those kids are no different in that sense. But yeah, specifically for me, growing up in Nigeria, it's always tough to tell people outside of Africa that, or give them an understanding of just how much things are different and also at the same time common between several different African countries. But for me, when I watched that rough cut, I couldn't help but see certain mannerisms or gestures that the kids made when they were telling stories, or just the way they would even spin tales. Those kinds of things for me, they struck a chord with me because I saw the same kids that I experienced in my childhood in the kids in Liana as well. So even something as simple as the monsters that they were making from scrap metal and limited resources, I did as a kid. And so, little specificities like that, allowed me to sort of understand at least a little bit of their perspective, because my childhood was way more privileged than theirs for sure. And there's no way I can understand them fully as people. And I'm not even Swazi in the first place, of course. But little things like that definitely did connect me to the kids, and not just make me want to help tell their story, but also to try and show something, a side of Africa that, I know is true, and I want the world to know is true. So if I could be in service to that, that was something I understood immediately when I watched the rough cut, was I wanted to be in service to that voice, basically.
That must have felt really good to know that your animation was going to contribute to that. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so few people in the world that get an opportunity like this with like-minded individuals to create and shape something so beautiful. So
yeah.
Again, can't say enough. I felt lucky.
I think we all feel lucky.
I just want to add that I know Amanda feels the same way, that we all just feel, you asked why did we decide to make Liana, and I feel like in some ways Liana kind of decided to make us. And I think a lot of artists will talk about that, the sort of the work that comes through us but not from us, and I where it comes from, who can say. But I think, yeah, we just feel really privileged to be all, rowing in the same direction, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I get that. Aaron, you talked about wanting the kids to be able to take center stage and control the narrative of their lives. And I think anyone who's seen this film would agree that you really accomplished that goal beautifully. Can you talk a little bit about how incorporating animation into the film helped you to achieve this? Helped give the kids their voice?
Yeah, well, I think the kids, the kids already have a voice, right? It was for us to just pass the mic, kind of.
Yeah.
They were already saying and thinking and doing beautiful things. It was just for us to record it and hopefully get ourselves out of the way. I think animation, I'm not an animator, so exactly how that mysterious, wonderful stuff works, I'm not quite sure I understand, but I think pretty early on we had some notion that animation would be a way for us to meet the kids in this fictional world of dreams that they, created, as a way for us to like reflect back that world of imagination to them, and hopefully, bring our skill set to bear, our resources, our privilege to sort of help them sing that song, I guess. And animation is, it's limitless. You can do anything. And so we knew that we could follow them wherever they went, whatever it was that they would come up with. We could make some animated approximation of it. And, of course, we never dreamed it would be so beautiful, which is partly where, of course, Shof comes in, taking that just so much farther than we could have even imagined. But yeah, it was just a way for us to reflect back to them their own imagining, and hopefully doing so in a way that they felt was respectful and truthful, and sort of did justice to that.
I remember thinking the first time I watched the film, I can't even decide which is more beautiful, the cinematography or the animation. And I thought, why am I struggling with this? Just relax and go with this. This is really a feast for the senses, the entire film.
Thank you.
So Aaron, another follow-up to you. So any documentary film is a collaboration, but I must say that you took collaboration to a whole other level in making this film. First, you and Amanda collaborating and sharing director and producer roles. Not an easy thing to do. You did it very successfully, and yeah, I'm sure that tested certain things in your relationship with.
Yeah, there were moments that did not feel particularly successful.
Well, it's hard to do, and because you have two strong and talented and very visual people, and you both are probably seeing it from your own point of view. It took a lot of love and respect for each other and I'm sure keeping in mind the overall goal of honoring the kids to do it, but you did it. You collaborated with Amanda. You and Amanda collaborated so closely with Shof. You collaborated with Gina. You took the roles of director and cinematographer and co-editor with the wonderful Davis Coombe. And I know you guys are both very strong and
Aaron did some animation too.
Oh, did he as well?
But,
well, now you're just showing off. That I didn't realize you had done that too. And then you found Philip Miller and worked with him, on the musical score, which I have to say, the beats the musical beats just enhance this film enormously. So, but focusing right now on your work with Shof, what was yours and Amanda's collective process in working with Shof to animate the kids' stories, and in doing that, of course, you're animating history and their emotional past as well, and integrating the animation with the verite footage. Can you talk a little bit about how you all put that together?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for all of that. I mean, I think that the sort of smartest, most talented thing I know how to do is work with people who are smarter and more talented than I am. So that's one thing I can take credit for, maybe. But yeah. So it was a really intriguing kind of opportunity problem to solve. You know, the integration of these two worlds, which were, you know, inherently quite different. Obviously sharing the spirit of the kids, but kind of in almost every other way we're different. So, you know, the nature of the technical process was that the story had to be pretty well cut together, you know, all these threads of the children's voices and their images laid out in the narrative sequence. And there was some back and forth, but that we had to kind of, in order to, you know, be respectful of Shof's time, we had to kind of have that more or less together before he really invested a tremendous amount of time and energy. So we all had these words and these images from which to work. And, you know, Shof just put a tremendous amount of time and energy into all of these like amazing little details that, you know, I'm sure I still don't even understand, all of the sort of rhyming of colors and compositions and just the moods and tones of everything. I mean, every little bit is addressed. Again, kind of all centering on that spirit of the kids. And I think that sort of core truth is what holds the forms together, you know. And so, you know, after that storyline was there, Shof started working, and then there was a lot of back and forth to find that, you know, whole. And, you know, yeah, you mentioned Philip Miller. He, of course, is an extraordinary, just a really special person. He came with us back to Swaziland. He recorded a bunch of audio with the kids. So actually some of the audio that you're hearing in the film, some of the sound effects and the music was created by the kids and musicians in Swaziland. And so he really dedicated himself to making music from that place and from these kids. And I think that kind of idea was something that governed the whole process, which is just that it is a film about a collective voice, a shared voice, not about any one of us. And I think we all, you know, yeah, just felt lucky to be able to get swept up in that.
I think if I might add, it's also one thing that struck me about the process of working on the film was just how dedicated to the vision of you know, collaborating with these specifically African voices to tell that story. Because oftentimes when you make a film like this, it's easy to go to take the shortcut and you know, put together a track or soundtrack that maybe doesn't really take into consideration, you know, the indigenous voice, right? And specifically working on the animation, for me, it was just an amazing playground, because as an art director or an artist in general, if you have the framework that you know is very clear and is very distinct, and I did have that with a rough cut, and I had images to play off of and energy and tone already, it makes the work so much easier and so much more joyful to produce, because it's almost like you have an already existing force to play with, right? Rather than just trying to take a brief or words that somebody's telling you to construct something. So I'm thinking specifically about the cinematography and how that influenced the way I develop compositions and colors and tone, and also, of course, you know, looking at the kids' artwork and listening to what Aaron and Amanda had to say about the kids and their personality, and of course seeing that from the film. All that stuff, it's inspiration fuel, obviously, that made my job so much easier.
Well, you described the project as a story that was a special puzzle to solve. is what you're saying now alluding to that, or if not, can you explain exactly what you meant by that?
Yeah, of course. It's along those threads. For me, I said special puzzle because in many ways, when you're developing a project like this, you tend to look at it as a problem-solving exercise, a puzzle. It is a joyful act, obviously, but the craft itself is something that you want to treat as a puzzle. And from a craft perspective, I'm the type of artist that enjoys a fusion of many different types of elements. So very early on, we had talks about trying to create a look in the film that borrowed ideas from, very well-known collage artists like Romare Bearden, for instance, and specifically African artists like Jideka Kunle Crosby. And the idea of using, a collage as a visual reference to develop the style of the film also tied in with the fact that these animation images had to also rhyme with the live action as well. So there are so many different elements craft-wise that we had to sort of tie together and fuse together to create something true to what the film was, to what the kid's voice was, basically. And having that kid's voice, or the kid's voice in the background, to sort of drive not only the look of the film, but the feel of the film, for me, it always felt like the most important thing I had to respect beyond just the craft. So that's why it engaged all of my senses to try and create something with Aaron and Amanda and with the kids that was so different from anything I will probably create in my life. I think that's why it will always remain a very special puzzle.
It sounds like it was enjoyable for you, really, on every level. And it's
Well, there's probably a few nights at like 3 a.m. that he might not have felt so joyous, but he did work tirelessly over a very, very embarrassingly long time. So thank you, Shof, again.
All totally worth it. All worth it. And those 3 a.m. Emails and calls, you were up there with me, so I never felt alone.
Yeah, well, fair enough. We were in it together.
So I'm going to ask you one more question, Aaron, and then we'd like to go to the public part of our evening. When we first met you, you'd already been working on the film for quite a while, but you were a ways from finishing it. But even then, what struck me, one of the things that struck me was that you already had a vision for the outreach that you wanted to do with this film and the social engagement. And it was global in scope. I remember early on you describing the graphic novel that you wanted to do, for example, as part of it. And you've done a magnificent job with that. Can you share some of your hopes about how Liana has been, well, let me back up. Can you share with us some of the ways in which Liana has been used to promote dialogue around social justice and what you might hope it will continue to do in the future?
Yeah, sure. So I think we feel really fortunate to be able to say that a lot of those, early dreams that you shared with us way back when have really come true, which is pretty extraordinary to see that come true over the many years. But I think, the film serves several different purposes. I mean, I think primarily these kids have a lot to teach us and a lot of different kinds of people, really. I mean, I think from pretty early on, we saw the film playing a role in the kids' lives, first and foremost, that this was kind of our love letter back to them, and that we, that was our, again, our driving force the whole time was to just make a film that they would be proud of, which I think we succeeded, I hope. And then within, Southern Africa and Africa as a whole, just to make a film that was true to an African childhood, that African kids could watch and see themselves reflected with dignity and be proud of themselves, and be proud of that sort of reflection that they see. And it's been really fun to watch the film, take hold and sort of plant seeds maybe in Black and brown communities in the States, less privileged communities. I think, we hoped, and it has really, I think, cultivated hope and a sense of self-worth and pride, among underserved kids. And also, it has been really rewarding to see it screen and be used by educators and all kinds of different sort of social activists in privileged communities too, because I think it has a distinct message there as well, maybe one more centered around empathy and respect, and a recognition that, kids who maybe don't have quite as much as you may still be pretty awesome and have a lot to offer the world. And I think that that message that the kids have taught us, and I think they've taught audiences all over the world now, like I don't know how many thousands of people, just that notion that wherever you're from, whoever you are, whatever you've been through, that you have a story to tell, and that you have the power to make beautiful things happen and to affect the world in a positive way. If these kids can do it, I think, just this sort of that's a thing that keeps driving us forward, now as we continue in our creative lives. I think Liana kind of reverberates through us now, and hopefully it does for a lot of other people.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to some of the questions that we're receiving from our listeners. Let's see. Well, several have asked, what was the kids' reaction to the final film?
Well, yes, that is, as I kind of alluded to earlier, that was an important question for us.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really important question, actually, because so many films that have been made about African kids or Africans in general have never really considered when the film is being made. It has never really asked itself what the people who are in the film might think of it. It has just been made, for consumption by others. So their response was really the most important thing the whole time, as we've sort of alluded to. What we watched it with them for the first time privately before we screened publicly in LA. And we just pretty much watched their faces the whole time, and they were just sort of this strange mix of shock and awe and delight. And they were quiet for quite a while. I think they didn't quite know what to make of it really, but they didn't have sort of words for it, I think. But when somebody asked them that question in LA at the premiere in LA, Pumlani, who's as you know, never short for words, said in only a way that he can. He said, "Well, it makes me feel like a hero," and I think they're super proud of it. Showing it back in Swaziland and having them attend screenings and just be rock stars and movie stars, and they've traveled all over the world with the film now, and seeing them kind of step into that power, like recognizing that they have that they have already given something to the world, has been like really, really deeply rewarding for us. And I think, I hope that, in the way that Liana reverberates for us, I hope that it does for them too, that it can be this experience that they look back on for the rest of their lives and draw some hope from and strength from, Yeah,
and I'm sure they do. We were lucky enough to be at the LA premiere of the film, and I can tell all who are listening, it was just a flat out love fest. I just, I wouldn't you say, Shofela? I don't think I'm exaggerating that.
No, not at all. Everyone was giving hugs. There were so many tears and just all love around. It was amazing.
Yes, and when you go to festivals, you always go with the hope that the subjects will be there. And when the kids came down And I mean, I really remember these people jumping to their feet. They just wanted to embrace the children, and the kids were, I mean, of course, they're then a few years older than they were in the film, and you had to sort of respond to that. But they were just so great, and they were.
Yeah, it was overwhelming for me too, because I got to meet them there for the first time actually myself.
Oh.
So I met my heroes there, and you know, the kind of love I felt there was very special, I think.
Yes, and I'm sure they looked at you as a hero as well for bringing their stories to the screen the way you did. It was really a wonderful event. Let's see. Janine asks, where's everyone today? Gina and the kids. And could you tell us more about the Liana Education Fund?
Yes, thank you. So all great questions. I'll start with the last one first quickly. Yes, there's a Liana Education Fund. One of the primary goals of the film. I think you kind of asked that earlier, and I was giving a bit more sort of soft, floofy answer about all of our businesses. But but yeah, a big part of what we're doing with the film is to give back to the kids, obviously. We have raised quite a bit of money now that is going back to the kids at the farm to fund their education. Going forward, you know, we just want to make sure that do whatever we can to make sure that there's nothing that holds them back from their dreams. So that's a big part of any revenue that comes into the film. In addition to the comic book and other sort of community outreach work that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Where is everyone now? Well, Amanda and I are in Boston now. Kingdom is still in Southern Africa, still writing and doing, storytelling workshops and just being an all-round amazing human being, as always. Actually, she was just recently in Boston. She also writes plays, so she's just doing all of the things as always, unstoppable. The kids are, they are mostly still back in Swaziland. Actually, Pumlani just came back from the States. He was doing an agricultural internship at a farm in California, which he was really, really loving. He is pretty much running the farm now, actually. He and another boy who's a little bit older than him, well, he's a man now. So yeah, I mean they're pretty much running the show. Nomkabo is about to graduate from university with a degree in social work, and in her own words, she wants to help kids like her, which is awesome, and she will. She's just a rock star. Zweli is in a little bit of a rough patch, actually. Zweli he's a mysterious one, that Zweli. The time between high school and university is a little bit rocky for anybody in the best circumstance, but he's going on a bit of a walkabout, but he'll be back.
Still in Swaziland at this
sorry?
time? Is he also still in Swaziland at this point?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. He was just on the farm now recently. I think he's trying to find another job now, but he's very, very intelligent, and he'll figure it out. But they're all still telling their story, and that story will inevitably have zigs and zags along the way. But Mugello and Mkulego are both just starting university, so they're all finding their way, doing well.
Sibusiso keeps sending me drawings that he makes every now and then.
Yes, Sibusiso is just an unstoppable storytelling force. He's just extraordinary. He's also writing and making music and drawing, doing all kinds of cool stuff.
So fantastic that he's finding all these outlets for his creativity. Let's see what other questions we might have. Kathy says, thank you for highlighting the needs that exist in Swaziland. Is there a way to help that community today?
Yes, well, you can help Shine, first of all, because Shine is making films like this all the time, which help, while not Swaziland specifically, perhaps, kids all over the world. If you have a specific interest in Swaziland, you can get in touch with us through the website. Sort of depending on what your interests are, we can find a way to make connections there. If you can contribute to the farm itself. If you get in touch with us on the website, we'll make that connection for you to the organization that runs the orphanage. And then of course there's the Liana Education Fund, which is about making sure that these kids can fly as high as they want to fly.
Thanks, Aaron. That's great. There's multiple ways to help. Let's see. Scott says, I just wanted to let you know how much I enjoyed the movie on multiple levels. The artwork was stunning. The kids were wonderful, uplifting, and creative despite their tough situation, and a great story. Congratulations. So let's see. We alluded to the graphic novel a little bit before. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, thank you for asking again. It was a plan from very, very early on. I mean, it's a very natural transition out of the film as it is into the comic book genre. So we have goals, and we've raised some money towards them to bring that graphic novel to schools in Southern Africa and in the US. So it's pretty well done, actually. Again, a lot more work from Shof and Amanda to help bring that to life. It is, the whole COVID-19 situation threw everybody for a loop. We had several things sort of irons in the fire that have sort of are sizzling. So we're trying to figure out what the best way is to release it, sort of in what order in which to do things. But when we can find the right business partner, or whatever platform needs to host it here in the States, then we'll be able to use it significantly in Southern Africa and beyond, we hope. But it's just a great way we think for kids in Swaziland and anywhere to have, to be able to hold a piece of Liana, and for that to just access those communities in a different way.
Is there a way to see any part of this on the Liana website?
Yeah, if you go to lianathemovie.com, we have a couple frames of the what will be the graphic novel up there, and it kind of talks a little bit more about the vision of what we're planning for it. But yeah, there's a couple pages up there, so you can kind of see what it's going to look like, and it will look like the film, which is to say, it will look like Shof's artwork and be very, very beautiful.
Shof, do you want to add anything to what Aaron's saying?
It was again a joy to work on it, a different type of challenge, and working with Amanda closely to develop it, and Aaron too, of course. It was like a mini sequel, which I quite enjoyed, and it's done. I mean, we've more or less finished the work for it. We just need to put like finishing touches on it, and like Aaron said, find the right platform or business partner to help publish it. So we're looking forward to seeing it out in the world and it having its own journey as well.
Perhaps there are people listening tonight who might have suggestions for you, and if so, I hope
so. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we're all ears. Like we said, we're all about collaborative voices. So
you are Mr. Collaborator. So Jack comments that it says, Aaron and Shof, you're being very modest, but you made a uniquely beautiful, powerful, tender, and sweet film. My compliments and gratitude.
Thanks, Jack.
That's very kind. Thank you.
I would all echo that. I think,
and again, I mean, it's not really false honesty, I don't think either. I mean, I do think that what's beautiful about the film ultimately comes from the kids. And so while we all worked very hard to make our best effort at bringing it to the world, I think the real credit goes back to the kids. I mean, I think it's their spirit, their ingenuity and imagination and resilience that made it all happen. So we will let them know that you said that, Jack. Thank you.
Definitely. It's funny, every time I watch the film, I don't remember which child comes up first. Maybe it's Swelly. I go, oh, he's my favorite. And then Fulani comes up, like, well, I don't know. Subiso comes up. Oh, oh, I'm not saying his name right, I don't think, but they just are just all so special, and
Yeah,
they just really
we love
are.
them very much.
Dearly.
Yes, that comes through. So, Aaron, you've entered academia, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started tonight. So, do you have? I know that your hope is, ultimately to combine filmmaking and teaching, and to maybe to move into narrative filmmaking as well. Is there anything there you can share with us about that?
Sure. I mean, I consider myself an artist who works in film. So I think that, what that is specifically, film, documentary fiction, it's all kind of part of the same space in my mind. It's all about storytelling and image making and art. And I think that teaching is very much in that same, wheelhouse as far as I'm concerned. I think it's all kind of part of the same work, really. Which is to say, just trying to find my own way and hopefully, encourage others to find a way to be more human, which is something we're all trying to do, right? Supposedly. So yeah, I mean, it's a pleasurable time for me to step away from some of my other work and read more and write more, and it feels like a really kind of rich, fun time. But yeah, teaching, I mean, I think the spirit that drives Liana and all my other work, I think it's all very much comes from the same place.
So in my previous careers, first as a social worker and then as a professor, I guess as a function of those experiences, when I first saw Liana, and this feeling is reinforced every time I see it again, I've always been struck by the preventive and the interventive opportunities that it provides. And so see Liana being used in classrooms, but also in all forms of counseling, mental health counseling, substance abuse counseling, working with traumatized children. And I remember, I guess about a year and a half ago, I had a chance to be in a panel at NYU within their department of art therapy, and I was one of, I think, 5 panelists, and so in the audience were seasoned professionals who've been doing therapy for years, as well as students who were learning how to do it. And that was one of the most exciting and fascinating discussions that I've heard around the film ever. I mean, they just took off. They were right there with the technique of working with a story, taking that step away from the kids' immediate experience of trauma and the safety that engaging them in telling a story would provide, and yet it would still yield a lot of healing potential. So I guess my question, based on that, Aaron, and to you too, Shof, is how do you see Liana making a difference in the lives of kids who may have experienced their own trauma?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. I don't know, feel free to chime in if you like, but I would say it's been really humbling to feel like the film can be and has been and will continue to be a tool for people who are working in all kinds of different communities. It's been used with trauma-informed work in the Native American community, sort of dealing with that historical trauma in really fascinating ways, in every sort of all kinds of crazy corners of the world where people can watch it. And I think because it does resonate pretty broadly. I mean, I think it gets to the core of why humans do stories, because it's a way for us to craft meaning from ourselves, our own identities, and the world. You know, I mean, I think that's what sort of is at the heart of storytelling, and it does provide. I think seeing the kids be so empowered in this fictional world where they can, it's like they are in control, they have the power, they can share what they want or not, and there's this sort of veil of anonymity that I think is a real place of power, and I think it speaks really to the power of the creative act. And I think that to the extent that Liana can be a source of inspiration and a tool and a guide, you know, for people in all these different communities. We just want people to be able to use it however they want. You know?
I think specifically for me, I remember when we were at the Bushfire Music Festival and we premiered Liana there. I mean, I have never seen African kids look at a piece of art and a story and respond that way to it. And I say that from a point of view, trying to, you know, sort of remove myself from the process of making the film myself. But I've never got to feel and talk to people and experience just how much it means to them to see their voice, their face, their attitude on a screen and see it reflected to them and make a difference in such a powerful way. That was deeply affecting for me because it makes me feel like I need to keep going with what I do, and it makes you believe that, you know, this film does actually have real power to change and affect, you know, human spirit. So that was a special moment for me, and I think that's the proof that the only proof I'll ever need, actually. Yeah, and I'm grateful I got to experience that.
Thank you, Shof. Well, I think we'll let Barbara close out this evening's discussion. She says, I wish this lovely, tender, amazing film could be shown in every classroom across the world. So inspiring. Thank you so much for the gift of this film to us all. And thank you, Barbara, for saying that.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure having a chance to talk with you again